Many people are exposed to traumatic events at some point in their lives. In the time immediately following a severe traumatic event, most people will have symptoms of PTSD. After a traumatic experience, people experience intrusive symptoms like flashbacks, nightmares, or memories that suddenly pop into their minds, negative thoughts and emotions, and physical reactions such as startling easily. These reactions tend to trigger each other, but if people allow themselves to feel their emotions, examine their thoughts, and allow the intrusive memories to inform their thinking and feeling, they decrease over time and eventually disconnect from one another. Eventually, the traumatic memory is just that, a memory, and people say, "That was a terrible event, and I remember that at first, when I thought about it, it was really hard because I had a lot of really strong emotions." It is a part of their history, but does not dominate their lives anymore. Over time, for many people who are able to process the memory and their emotions, those symptoms naturally decrease, and they are not diagnosed with PTSD. In other words, they naturally recover from the traumatic event. These are people who are open with others about what they experienced, flexible in their thinking, and willing to feel their emotions. There are some people who do not recover and are later diagnosed with PTSD. For people who do not recover naturally, avoidance stops the adjustment process. When avoidance takes over, it prevents the other symptoms from processing and changing. There are many types of avoiding. In the beginning, it may be unintentional because the person didn't have the opportunity to talk to others or feel natural emotions, and he or she pushed the memory and symptoms away so that they could continue to function as effectively as possible in their day-to-day role. Avoidance works in the short term, so it's tempting to avoid when emotions are strong and thoughts are disturbing. The problem is that avoidance doesn't work well and doesn't really fix the PTSD symptoms, and can lead to other serious problems such as substance abuse, other addictive behaviors, aggression, depression, and so forth. Because of the ways avoidance blocks the process of natural recovery, it is helpful to think of PTSD as a problem in recovery. Something got in the way of having that natural process of recovery. The goal for treatment will be to stop the avoidance behaviors and help process the thoughts and feelings in a way that you haven't been able to up to now. The work is to determine what got in the way and to change it so that you can recover from what happened. CPT works to get people with PTSD unstuck. There are some different reasons why you might be having trouble recovering. First, there is an automatic component during the event that you should consider as you evaluate how you responded during the time. When people face serious, possibly life-threatening events, they are likely to experience a very strong physical reaction called the fight or flight reaction. In the fight or flight reaction, your body is trying to get you ready to fight or flee danger. The goal here is to get all the blood and oxygen out to your hands, feet, and big muscle groups like your thighs and forearms so that you can run or fight. To do that quickly, the blood leaves your stomach or the thinking part of your brain. You don't need to be thinking about your philosophy of life or digesting dinner if you're in a life-threatening situation. You may feel like you've been kicked in the gut or are going to faint. You also weren't able to slow down and make a plan. You probably just reacted. More recently, we've learned that there's another possibility, the freeze response, which a lot of people don't know about. The freeze response is also an automatic process, but in this case, your body is trying to reduce both physical and emotional pain. You may have stopped feeling pain or had the sense that everything was happening to someone else, as if it were a movie. You might have been completely shut down emotionally or even had shifts in perception, like you were out of your body, or the time has slowed down. If the fight or flight response doesn't work and the danger continues, you may have had this freeze response. This is just as normal of an in-the-moment response to danger as the fight or flight response. If you've been thinking now of other things that you could have done then, you might need to consider what your state of mind was during the event. Did you have all the possible options available to you? Did you know then what you know now? Did you have different skills now that you had then? The other thing that can happen is that the fight or flight response that you were experiencing during the traumatic event can get quickly paired with cues or things in the environment that didn't have any particular meaning before. Then later, when you encounter those cues, you're likely to have another fight or flight reaction. Your nervous system senses the cue, which could be a sight, a sound, a smell, or even a time, and then your body reacts as though you're in danger again. These reactions will fade over time if you don't avoid the cues. For example, if the trauma occurred on a highway, even if driving on the highway hadn't been associated with danger in your mind in the past, because nothing bad had happened when you were driving. You may find that the fight or flight response is now triggered when you think about driving on the highway. However, if you avoid reminder cues, your body won't learn that these are not, in fact, good danger cues. They don't tell you accurately whether you are actually in danger, so you may have false alarms going off frequently. After a while, you won't trust your own senses or judgment about what is and isn't dangerous, and too many situations will seem dangerous that are not. You may start to have thoughts about the dangerousness of the world, particular places, or situations that are based on your reactions rather than on the actual realistic danger of those situations. This leads us to examine how your thoughts might affect your reactions.